Hey everyone, I'm Jon Davis with Signature Back Office Solutions. Great to see you today. At Signature, we help staffing firms launch, manage, and grow in a scaled way their contract staffing business. For nearly 20 years, we've helped hundreds of staffing companies make just over 100,000 contract placements in all 50 states. And we're passionate about helping staffing firms be more competitive and grow their businesses more profitably in 2025 and beyond. I'm super excited today to be joined by Tom Erb. If you don't know Tom, he's literally a legend in the contract staffing business. Tom's got decades of experience as a top producer, an executive with multi-million dollar firms. And for probably the past 15 years, I've had the opportunity to hear Tom speak at conferences, watched his webinars, and most recently just read your book, Tom, Winning the Staffing Sales Game. And it's a great outline for building a repeatable and scalable sales process, which I highly recommend to anyone and everyone. So, Tom, you founded Talent Resources to really help staffing companies do what they do, scale and grow. So thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live session.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
So, Tom, we've got viewers today that they focus on direct hire business. It's served them well. They love these big fees that come in the door. Why should they slow down the car? Why should they be interested in contract staffing?
Yeah, there's a few reasons for it. I mean, obviously, direct hire can be extremely profitable, but it can also be extremely stressful. It's it's a bit feast or famine, and probably just about everybody that's on this call, if you've been doing it or on this webinar, if you've been doing it for a while, you've experienced those great months, and you've experienced those months where you didn't send out a single invoice. So the number one thing is it just levels out your revenue and your cash flow, and it provides more stability, more predictability. And it's just really nice to have, a half a dozen, 10, 15, 20 people that are out on repeatable billing where you're getting that money every single week. And it's a foundation. Then you can have the direct hire that's on top of that. So, unless you're a really, really large search firm that can spread out and have more predictability around that, the smaller and mid-sized companies really do benefit from having it. The other reason too is that it provides a lot more value if and when you're getting ready to sell your company. And I learned a long time ago that somebody once said, and it's always stuck with me, whether you plan on selling your company or not, you should be running your company as if you're going to sell it. And there's not a tremendous amount of value in search firms. The value really is on the contract side for the same reasons that it's attractive to staffing and search firms. It's that predictability of revenue and cash flow. So there's lots of different reasons to do it. The other reason is that it's just another tool in your toolkit. And so if you go into every single situation and you're talking to a prospect or you're talking to a client and they need a solution that it requires a contract person and you don't offer that, well, somebody else is going to fill that. And then that opens the door. So you can actually expand into your client base by offering a different service, and then also protect your clients as well, so that you don't leave the door open for them to have to go look elsewhere. So lots of different value, lots of different ways that contract staffing provides value.
Yeah, I've heard you start to build that moat around your clients where you're adding value. And, exactly what you said. If you don't provide this and someone else does, your direct hire fees might be at risk down the road.
Yeah. And it's the old adage of, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If all I've got is direct hire, then all I'm going to offer is direct hire. And that's not always the right solution. For the client, it's not necessarily the right solution for the talent. It's not what they want. So to be able to have some different offerings, it really helps.
Yeah, the more problems we can solve for customers, the more value we create, the more sticky we become, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's this step, this stepping off point. If you've been doing direct hire placements and you think about contract staffing, all these things start flooding your mind. How do I do it? How do I fund it? How do I do the tactics of it? If you think about folks that are wanting to take that step forward, do they need to go have their own sales force that's only contract? Do they need to go have a different recruiting force that just focuses on contract? How would you recommend somebody builds into their current operation the ability to bring this offering?
Yeah, I think it depends on the verticals and the levels that you're at. So if you're looking at, for instance, let's say that you are in legal and you provide attorneys and partners and that level, and then the contract opportunities, you can still have some that are in the attorneys. There are companies that do that, but a lot of the opportunities also is at the paralegal level and legal assistant, and that those are two different kind of recruiting avenues. And so you probably don't want to have your search recruiters focusing their time on contract. The other piece to it too is that in most cases with contract, what you're looking for obviously are people that are either unemployed, that are going from contract to contract, that are in a position but they're willing to move into a contract role because they don't like the position that they're in. So it's a bit of a different part of the talent pool in a lot of cases too. Now, if you're looking at really high level contract and you've been doing the same level of search, then you might be able to have your recruiters do that. But what we also find is in a lot of cases when you have search recruiters that then are starting to do some contract, in many cases they will struggle with time management on that because it is a different type of search. It's different. And also we have a lot of recruiters that would go, well, they don't understand the value of the residual ongoing contract value, so they tend to still value the search side. So there's a lot of variables that go into it, but ideally, if you're going to do that, you'd want to set up, at least on the recruiting side, different people to handle search versus contract. Now, on the sales side, to me, I'd have salespeople that go out there and sell it all.
Yeah.
And because again, it's the different tools in your tool belt. Give that salesperson all the tools. Let them be a solutions provider instead of one person just goes out to sell direct hire and one person goes out to sell contract. And of course, traditionally in the search side, we've had more 360 full desks where people have the recruiters are also doing the sales. We're seeing more and more of search firms realizing that they need to have some more dedicated sales resources, particularly in the last couple of years. And so that's a good time to be able to bring a dedicated salesperson in that's focused on both of them.
I get questions a lot about what's the difference between contract staffing, consulting, fractional, interim. And typically I say, it's all in a wrapper that you may choose or the client may choose to perceive. Any feedback on those different terminologies?
Yeah, I mean, in most cases, we're talking about the same thing. We're just positioning it differently depending on the audience.
Yeah.
So typically, I guess the difference is when you start to talk about fractional, you are more likely to be talking about independent contractors, so 1099, as opposed to employees W-2 for most contract. That would be the biggest difference. And even in those fractional positions, a lot of times you can have people that are W-2. But what you'll see is if you're at, like, let's say you've got a fractional CFO, in a lot of cases, you'll bring in somebody that actually is doing other fractional work or consulting work. And so in that case, they probably are going to prefer a 1099 arrangement. So you just have to kind of see what the requirements of the job are. Does it qualify as a 1099? There are very specific restrictions and also very vague restrictions around the difference between a 1099 and a W-2. And I think that's intentional by the government. But, in general is if somebody is directing their work pretty directly, if you're setting hours, if they can't go and do other things, you're going to have them be a W-2 employee. That's what the law wants you to do. when we hear different things like fractional consultant, a lot of times companies will refer to their employees as consultants, but it really is
Same.
contract.
Yeah.
They're W-2 employees. A lot of times I think you said it well, it's a different wrapper for the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're coming up on mid-year 2025. I think we all entered the year with the highest of hopes. We had an election behind us, and good or bad, whatever your thought is on the outcome, at least we had a decision, and we saw a small bounce in December, January. And by all accounts, it seems relatively flat, but there definitely seems to be a difference, between the haves and the have-nots right now. And like you, I talked to a lot of staffing firm owners, and some are still, their business is going quite well. Some are really struggling. When you think about the haves and the have-nots in the staffing firms today, what are the biggest distinctions in 2025?
So much of it's mindset. I talk to people all the time. I have my client base that I'm always talking to, which are all staffing and recruiting firms. I just got back from 5 conferences in 8 weeks. And so I talk to hundreds and hundreds of different people in the industry. I pay attention to what people are saying out there on social media. I pay attention with the different industry associations like NAPS and ASA and SIA. And what I see over and over and over again is that there's the old adage of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's what we see. And it is a self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, business is down, and so I'm going to be down. And there's also there's a lot of talk that I hear about comparing ourselves, how we're doing compared to the industry. And so I'll have people that'll say, well, we're down about 10% this year, and that seems to be about what the industry's down. So, we think we're doing pretty good. And I go, well, that's the rising tide lifts all boats, right? You've got to consider that if the industry's down 10% and you're down 10%, then you're just saying you're average, right? Yeah. You're average. What are we going to do to overcome that? And it's all about mindset. I have yet to have a salesperson or a recruiter come to me and say, it's gotten tougher to sell, so I've doubled my sales activities. Not one of them. In fact, the opposite has held true, which is that we have this defeatist attitude of, we reach out to a few people and they go, yeah, we're not hiring, or yeah, we're taking it in-house right now. And we extrapolate those 1 or 2 discussions out to the entire market. And then what we do is we say, well, what's the point of making calls? Nobody's hiring. And so I always think about, when you're kind of deciding what you want to do, think about, what would your competition want you to do? Your competition would want you to stop selling. Your competition would want you to stop making those phone calls, would want you to stop going out to these networking events, going to conferences, doing all these different things. What your competition does not want you to do is what you should do, which is double and triple your efforts. It is leverage automation, leverage AI, leverage all the different things you can to scale, have a greater presence out there than they do. That's what we need to do. And the companies that have been more successful during this period, and there are companies that are out there, I have clients that are up 20, 30% over last year, 40, 50% in some cases. They decided that it doesn't matter, that they're not big enough to be influenced by the greater macro economy, and that they're just going to double down on what they do. They're just going to push forward, and they're going to look at this as an opportunity to pick up market share while their competition's feeling sorry for themselves. That's what we've got to do. We got to get out there and just go, ignore the noise. The funny thing is that our industry, depending on what numbers you look at and depending on what vertical you're in, is down 10 to 15%, whatever, from last year. And of course, last year was down another 10. So it's down quite a bit. But if you look at it that way, 85 to 90% of it's still there. Yeah. So we just have to go and steal market share, right? Yes. We have to just be more attractive. We have to be more aggressive. We have to be more purposeful. and more strategic than our competition is, because our competition is just, they're having a pity party for themselves and just waiting this out.
Yeah, let them have the party, right? And
yeah, let them wallow in their own pity.
I saw a stat the other day. I think it was ASA, and I could be wrong, but it said the contract staffing revenue was over $200 billion now for the first time. So, last time I checked, 200 billion is a lot of dollars, right? To grow. So even if it is down 10%, there's still lots of opportunity out there. You said something.
None of us are big enough to be really influenced by the macro economy, right?
1,000%.
And the other thing too is that the U.S. is not one economy; it's 10,000 micro economies, and so it really varies depending on the geographic market you're in, the vertical that you're in. It matters based on your client base. I have clients that are literally down the street from each other, and one of them's down 20%, and one of them's up 20%, and it's based on their client mix. The one that's down 20%, their clients are down 20%. The one that's up, their clients are up. So there's so many different variables in there to really take a look at what's happening on a macro level. It's important, but it really doesn't influence us, particularly right now.
Well, I got a couple of things I want to touch on, but you said something earlier that you can't watch any webinar, you can't read any white paper, you can't go to any seminar without hearing AI. And so this is out there, Tom. Is this the savior for business development? Is this the end all be all to get rid of staffing companies, or what's your take on AI?
I think salespeople are safe for the time being. I mentioned I've been to 5 conferences in the last 8 weeks, and the talk is AI. And people, you can be sick of AI, but you can't ignore AI. Because we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and it is the most transformational technology that we're going to see in our lifetime, I would assume. We don't know, but up to this point certainly is. AI for the smart ones that are on top of it and that really learn how to leverage it, it's going to allow us to scale exponentially. And so the people that embrace it and really figure out how to integrate it into their processes, and I'm really talking more on the recruiting side, are going to be able to scale. Is it going to replace recruiters? Yes, it's going to replace the post and pray recruiters that are basically processing applicants.
Good.
Yeah, right. It's going to enable and scale the good recruiters. And so I'm very excited about AI. There's going to be a real separation between the people that are running with it and the people that are resistant to it or that are not sure what to do. And so we just got to jump in and really learn as much as possible. I'm spending a lot of my time every day looking at AI. When I say a lot of time, not half of it or anything, but I'm every day I'm looking into AI. I'm signing up for a lot of different newsletters and blogs and those things that are really talking about AI in terms of our industry. And now on the sales side, AI can do some really great things around automation and emails and even helping you role play and become a better salesperson and all that. I don't see it replacing salespeople picking up the phone anytime soon. It can replace a lot of the other administrative stuff and can help scale, but the AI is nowhere near the level it needs to be. And I don't think people are going to be accepting of AI salespeople for now. I think eventually they will.
Yeah.
Just like 4 or 5 years ago, you called somebody's cell phone to sell them, and that was an absolute no-no. That was, you didn't do that. Well, nowadays, for the most part, it's pretty well accepted. So people will adapt and will adjust to the technology over time. And at some point, you will have AI salespeople that are out there, and people will talk to them. But it's not there yet.
You said, when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And it seems like AI is a tool that's almost like a Swiss Army knife. It's got many different uses. And let's be frank, some abuses as well from sales folks. But I think what I hear is the same thing. Those that can leverage the tool to be what it is, a tool to help you be better selling. And at the end of the day, people buy from who they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Always have and probably always will.
Change. It's not going to change. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, we're up to mid-year, and I heard somebody say the other day, my same store sales, my current customers are down to flat. So the way I'm winning, the way I'm growing is I'm adding new logos, and that's how I'm winning against my competition. Again, we're mid-year. We've got half the year left to still make 2025, our best yet, and set up 2026 because tailwinds are coming.
Yeah.
Whatever, those that have been around staffing business, we know the cycles. They go up and they go down, and tailwinds are coming. Give us 2 or 3 nuggets from your experience to best prepare for taking advantage of what opportunities are certainly there today and setting up 2026. What are 2 or 3 fundamental things that we should focus on?
So the number one thing is there's a concept. I use this concept of the 3-legged stool of growth. And the 3 legs are existing clients, maximizing existing client relationships, bringing in new business, and then optimizing our fulfillment, filling as many of the jobs that we get, right? How do we increase our percentage of fills? What inevitably happens if we're it's all a pendulum swinging, right? Swinging back and forth as far as, we've got too many orders and not enough people. Oh, we got too many people and not enough orders. And right now we're kind of at the bottom of that, starting to swing back towards we'll have too many orders and not enough people. And it is coming, everybody, I swear. But what happens when that pendulum's going is that everybody tends to pay attention to 1 or 2 of those legs of the stool. Well, if you don't have all 3 legs, it falls over. So we really have to focus at all times, even when we've got too many orders. We still need to focus on all 3 areas of it. What happened was when we had too many orders a couple of years ago, everybody stopped selling.
Yep.
But what we have seen is that now we become extremely dependent on our existing clients, and we're always going to be losing clients. When I was running 35 offices, I had 50 P&Ls when you had roll-ups. And when we would budget every year, I would just assume 10% attrition every year. 10% attrition through no fault of our own. We'd have people that would close down. We'd have people that would move out of the state or out of the country, whatever it was, 10% attrition of our clients. And then we would start with that. So if I wanted to grow 15%, I really needed to grow 25+% because I'm starting out at 90%, not 100. And so I would say the first thing is always have that mentality, always have that focus on how do I bring in new business? How do I maximize wallet share of my existing clients? Where are other ways that I can leverage this? How do I get more of the business? Because they're not just using one staffing or recruiting firm anymore. So how do I become a more trusted advisor, a better business partner with them and get more of the business? And contract staffing can be one of those areas if you're only doing search, or vice versa. If you're only doing contract staffing, you can add search. We're adding things like RPO with our clients. We're adding vendor management systems and managed service provider solutions. There's lots of different things that we can offer up. We're even looking at hybrids of direct hire and contract for positions where you don't want to do a contract, but they want to spread it out over a period of time.
Yep.
Then we would look at more, installment direct hire as a solution for some positions where it makes sense. So lots of different things that we can do to add to wallet share. And then that third piece of it is, okay, if let's say my fill rate's 20%, which is a typical contingent search rate, right? We fill 20% of the contingent searches. On engaged or retained, it's obviously much, much, much higher. How do I get that from 20 to 25? How do I get it to 30%? So just because you're working on those positions, what is it that I can do to increase this? If we focus on all those 3 areas all the time, then we're going to grow much faster. So that's the biggest tip I would give. The other thing that I would say is, it all still comes down to activity. And when I say activity, it really still comes down to getting on the phone. And I realize that, we've got a couple generations in our workforce that aren't used to talking to their friends on the phone. They didn't grow up with it. I'm a Gen Xer. I would call my friends at their house, have to talk to their parents for a couple of minutes. And
On a corded telephone, there was no
yeah.
wireless.
So I'm used to being on the phone. I did it from the time I was 7 or 8 years old. But I realize a lot of people aren't. And so we just got to get comfortable with being on the phone, where it still is the best way. We have lots of data to support it, that there is a direct correlation still with being on the phone and success and bringing in new business. And we just need to do it as much as we possibly can. And we got to be diligent about that, about doing that activity. So those are a couple of tips. I got other ones, but I know we don't have a lot of time. So
no, I mean, basically controlling the controllables, building relationships with folks. I mean, this is pretty basic. It's very simple. It's just not easy to do. And I think that reminder is very needed in today's marketplace for sure.
Woody Allen said 80% of success is just showing up. And I absolutely believe that that is absolutely true when it comes to sales, when it comes to recruiting. The more people I can talk to, whether that is on the phone, in person, at networking events, at conferences, wherever that is, the more people I am able to touch, the more success that I'm going to have.
Wow, that's a good stopping point right there, Tom. If folks want to learn more about you and your offerings, do they go to your website? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can check us out on talonresources.com, and the spelling is spelled like tall Ann. Talonresources.com. We offer a variety of online training options. We also have consulting, and we do a variety of different things for staffing and recruiting companies. That's really all that we work with, our staffing and recruiting firms.
Well, grateful for your time today, and I'm also just appreciative of your benefit to the industry. It's very rare that I don't see you involved in contributing to rising the tide of the staffing industry. So thank you, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, John.
All right, take care.